This is Gesher, the podcast that's bridging the gap between the Jewish and evangelical Christian communities with conversations that matter. Here's your host, Ty Perry, with the Friends of Israel Gospel Ministry.
Hello and welcome to this episode of the Gesher podcast. I'm Ty Perry, Director of Field Ministries at the Friends of Israel Gospel Ministry, and I'm glad that you've joined me for another in-depth conversation. My guest today is Dr. Kobby Barda. He is a lecturer at the School of Multidisciplinary Studies at the Holon Institute of Technology in Israel. He's also a visiting fellow at the University of South Wales and a senior non-resident scholar at the Center for Governance and Markets at the University of Pittsburgh. He wrote his dissertation on church planning and the rise of Christian Zionism in the United States. Dr. Barda's research focuses on American political history, particularly the intersection of religion and politics, the evangelical movement, and its influence on U.S. foreign policy. His recent book, The Liberty Way, Falwell's Path to Christian Zionism, examines the development of evangelical grassroots networks and their impact on U.S.-Israel relations, and I'm glad to have him on the podcast today. Dr. Barda, welcome.
Thank you so much. It's an honor.
Well, Dr. Barda, I met you a couple of years ago during one of our election seasons. You were doing a podcast series interviewing people across the country, I think especially in swing states, if I remember correctly. Mm-hmm. And I had the honor of being one of your interview subjects, and it was really a great experience. But now I wanted to turn the tables because you are an expert on Christian Zionism, and you offer a unique perspective because you are a Jewish Israeli. You're not in the Christian Zionism world in the sense of being a part of it, but you are very much involved in terms of your observation and attending conferences and things like that, documenting Christian Zionism. So I want to begin. I have a lot of questions for you, but I want to begin by asking you, you're an Israeli. Why was Christian Zionism something that you wanted to study, and how did you first come to that subject in the first place?
So I have to tell you a short story, and then I'll go to the more detailed one. But the anecdote is so funny that I think that it represents the whole story. So I was actually interviewing many things related to my dissertation, and one of the persons that I had the great privilege and honor to interview is Dr. Elmer Towns. So he's the co-founder of Liberty University. He was there from day one. He's been written, I think, like 200 books about church plantings. It's a real phenomenon, very sharp. I met him 4 or 5 years ago. I think he was more than 90. It was very sharp, very fun to talk. And here we go at the very end. They gave me 45 minutes. I think we already finishing like 2 hours. And he wants to go to take his nap. It was like late afternoon. And so I'm just telling, just like last final question, if you may, I really want to ask you, do you have any knowledge about other students? There's so many PhD dissertation in that institute. It's a fine institute, 130,000 students per year, thousands and thousands of graduates, alumni. And so I'm asking, do you have somebody who try to do what I'm doing, right? Like to understand the heritage, like how the infrastructure, how everything works. And he kind of thought and tried to remember, and he told me, at the very beginning, I used to have like a map. I used to have any church planter. I would pin him in. But no, I don't think that anyone ever did that before. So I asked him, so here's my final question to you. How can you explain that a Jewish guy from relevantly small university, Haifa University is not a large university, is actually the first ever working on the legacy of your fine school? Yeah. So he took a sip of air and told me, you were chosen by God. So I said, you know what? Last time somebody tried to prevent you finished in a whale. So I humbly accept the mission.
You're the new
and
Jonah.
It's really, and it's, yeah, of course. So it's like, I was, I'm secular. And it is kind of weird. So a lot of people are asking me about it. It's like, what is your motivation? So now I can give like the whole lecture of why I'm doing so. But that anecdote, I thought it was very funny. And you know what? In a sense, I thought, there's a mysterious ways. And later on, maybe I will tell a story again that remind me all the time that even though I'm secular, there's things that I just absolutely cannot explain. Okay. What actually drove me into that thing? So basically, if we're going to the very beginning, I was a professional spokesperson. I had a PR agency. I did a lot of campaigns, political campaigns. I like the intersection between sports and politics. That's my two passions. That's something that I like the most. And I remember that one day, it was a very beginning of March 2017, I woke and I had this, I don't want to call it epiphany, but understanding that my profession will not prevail all the way to pension. And I wrote an article. I called it the termination of the communication dinosaur. And I pointed on three things that I believed that now it's no longer prediction because it's real life. I said, one, because of social networking, it's much more easier to spend your dollar rather than to go and put on wide scale that you don't know who read it and who did anything to use that. Second, the uprising of the video conference. It started with text, then pictures, but then video. I said everything, and that's before TikTok. That was like 2 years before TikTok. So like most of it will go on the format of creation of video, right? And that is, as a sense. And third, I talked about the AI. I wrote about agents. Nobody even knew the word AI at the time.
Sure.
But I wrote that the journalism will be eventually created synthetically. So I said that around 2025, my profession, the spokesperson, which is feeding the journalism, will die or vanish with him. So I said, okay, if that is the case, I did some soul searching. What can prevail if you're somewhere at the age of 50? That's what I was there, the age of 2025. And I came to this conclusion. There is only one profession that respects white hair or no hair at all, and that is professor in the university. So I said, okay, if that is the case, how about I'll go and teach myself my one great desire, and that's American politics. That's something that I like from junior. So I went on and registered myself to MA program in Jewish American. It's called the Ruderman program for American Jewry. And then I decided I want to write my dissertation about AIPAC. So once I wrote this dissertation about AIPAC, it was only natural that the second most important lobby advocating for U.S.-Israel relation would be evangelicals. So I then decided that my dissertation will be about the evangelicals. So my two mentors told me, no, you cannot take like a whole story of all times. You need to try and focus yourself on something. Go ahead, read, see Pat Robertson, see Billy Graham, see whoever you want, and decide who do you want to do and take that path. So I'm very grateful to my two mentors, both Dr. And the doctor remembered on history is Ali Cook, which is the head of American history in Haifa University, and Professor Zach Levy, which was the head of international affairs at that time in Haifa University. So both of them mentored me, and I decided I want to do my dissertation about Jerry Falwell. And so the whole story of Jerry Falwell is very much unique way to seize that 70s as a kind of pushing back on the 60s that was ultra liberal. Right. Remember hippies, the feminists, the pro civilian act, whatever. That was very much the 60s. And the 70s, when they kicked in, they went all the way to the other way. That usually you get to see that in history. That's
Sure.
like, and what was very interesting in that idea is that how he mobilized, first time ever. I don't know if you know that, but in 1976 there were 2 million less registered evangelical comparing to 1980. So what he understood at the beginning of the 70s, by the way, because of Supreme Court ruling about taxation of institution back in the 70s, that he needs to take his congregation and activate them into political scene, becoming somebody who's determined their future. And starting from the mid-70s all the way, if you see, for instance, moving of the embassy to Jerusalem, if we're focusing only now on Christian Zionism, 2008 and 17, you see a process started in 1984 when he's preaching Congress that the embassy needs to move to Jerusalem, going through 1995, the act himself, and then at the very end, 2017, after the evangelical leaders went into Trump chamber, after he signed once in the June 1st, he signed that he will waiver, because there was this back channel. Every half a year, the president would sign a waiver not to move the embassy. And they told him, Mr. President, this is a Jubilee year. So, you're running out of time. You need to get yourself together and move that embassy. And only 2 weeks later, he decided he wants to move the embassy. On top of it, back at Oshkosh, Wisconsin, in August 2020, he declared that the only reason why he moved the embassy was for the evangelicals. There's actually literally that he said that. It's that the only reason, not Bibi, not the Jews. He actually said the Jews are not excited as the evangelical are excited about that. So that's the exact phrase that he said. So if we look at that, we can see this impact. And what I'm trying to see is to have grassroots movement impact on Congress, because Congress can impact on foreign affairs. So you can preach your legislator, your representative, and tell him, look, this is something that is very important to me, the relation between US and Israel, and then he will transfer that into, the Congress as the purse, or the Congress as, or the Senate as, approving 2/3 of the Senate if they want to give like alliance or whatever. So there is an impact where, and this is what's fascinating me, and we do not have that in Israel at all, is that the fact that every given citizen with his unique, just one voice, can make a difference in the sense that he can activate people into moving. And time again, this is what I do as a historian. I would look onto papers that just the common people, just average Joe, would write someone, and the congressman will report or will say something that, he changed my mind about that. I want to do that. I think that my constituency are very eager about this object, and I want to promote it. And this is something that is, Israelis don't even understand that, because we have parties representative and not somebody represent us. So that's basically it.
Well, I want to ask you maybe more on a personal level. So you start researching specifically the Jerry Falwell influence in Christian Zionism. Now, you said you're a secular Israeli. What's your initial reaction when you start diving into this and find that there are Christians in America who are extremely passionate about Israel and the U.S.-Israel relationship? How did that strike you as an Israeli?
So first off, let me tell you, I promised you a story earlier. So
yes.
Now it's the right time to put it forward, because you asked directly the question. And one of the things that I found, which is remarkably, there's no other word that I can say about it other than remarkably, is the story how it all started. Because no one in Israel knew what is evangelicals at a whole. So there was no understanding at all about this idea. So the story is follow. So there was this doctor, which also was secular. He lived in Illinois, and small town, and he had the road accident, and he actually died, or at least he thought he died. And then there was this angel came to him and told him, listen, we have a mission to you in Jerusalem. You need to go to Jerusalem. So when he woke up, he thought it's the drugs.
Mm-hmm.
And he said, so he's a doctor, right? It's like, okay, I've been under, drugs, it was an illusion, and everything's okay. He fell down to sleep. This angel come again. No, that was not dream. We have a very important mission to you. You need to go to Jerusalem. It's like, I don't even have the money for that. What are you talking about? Like, don't worry about it. We'll take care of it. So he's, eventually get back home, open the mailbox. Fair enough. You cannot believe you find a check. It's like, okay.
My goodness.
This is a mission I cannot avoid, probably. Now he's a nuclear doctor.
Okay.
Nuclear doctor. And he goes to Hadassah. And he applied for a job there. He doesn't know what he needs to do. This angel never came back again. Spoiler, okay? Never come back again. And he goes to, it's like, okay, I need to make my bread, right? So it's like, okay, let's go to the hospital. And his patient is Menachem Begin.
Oh my goodness.
So Menachem Begin has this back pain, serious back pain. He's been suffering that all of his life. And he comes to his chamber or to his clinic, and at the very end of that, they're talking. So Menachem Begin asked him, when did he do Aliyah? Aliyah means that they immigrate to Israel. And he said, oh, no, I'm not a Jew. So why do you speak Hebrew? What are you doing here? It's like, okay, so I'm an evangelical, and we love Israel. So Menachem Begin was like, what is evangelical? I've never heard this term. What is it? It's like, we're people of faith, we're Christians, and we look at Jews as our bigger brothers. And I'm here, I was sent by God. I don't know why. It's just like, but I want you to know there are millions of us who admire Israel. We love Israel. Israel is part of our everyday life. We pray for Israel. And that's why I'm here. Menachem Begin goes back to his chamber. And Kol Yechel Kedishai, he was his secretary. And he told him, here's the story. There's this guy, this doctor. He told me that he read the Bible every day, that he goes to sleep in his drawer, there's a Bible. This guy told me that there's like millions of them in the US. Could you please find out about this phenomenon? What is that? Like, who's their leader? Who do I need to talk with? What do I need to do for it?
Yeah.
And this Yechel Kedishai comes to him and tells him, okay, yes, there is this thing. They love Israel. And the guy you need to find is Jerry Falwell. So they're meeting together. They hooked up. They become like the best friends ever, to the extent that when Menachem Begin decides, after the Lebanon war, that he's retiring home, he almost saw no one there. He finished his life in a great grief. Jerry Falwell has 2 times talking with him, one over the phone and one with actual physically meeting him in his home, which is something that was very rare because he was not willing to accept people. And so that is the extent of this friendship that created between these 2 gentlemen. And it is all started with that secular doctor in a road accident. So now you ask me, is Kobby Barda, you secular? What? Give me an answer. There's things I cannot explain. And anyone can take it coincidence, God, whatever you guys want, but that's the story. I just put it forward. This is the story. That's what happened, and that's how this relation all started. So in many ways, I would rather say that there's at least something is guide us on the way to this covenant at that point of time.
Well, I mentioned in the introduction your book, The Liberty Way, which centers on, as you just said, Jerry Falwell, who, for those who aren't familiar, I'm sure many listeners are, he was the founding pastor of Thomas Road Baptist Church, and then eventually what becomes Liberty University, which has had a huge impact on the evangelical world in America. And so I'd like to tell me a little bit more about, as you've researched this, Falwell's impact on Israel, and that relationship between Israel and the U.S. that Falwell was able to really get going. Tell us a little bit more about that story and its impact on Israel and the U.S.
So basically, what Jerry Falwell decides to do is he wants to have this, if you want to call that, massive plant, okay, that will create the next church planters that will, in their time, create communities. Those communities will have few things that will be very important in their life, okay? And one of those very important things of their life would be the importance of the covenant, okay? The importance of the special relation with Israel and Jews. So basically, he came up with a method which is extremely amazing in many ways. If you want to look at that very raw way, I would call like franchising. Like, how do you create a franchise? What is it that you can eventually have a young, just recently grad, 21 years of old, going out there and to the frontier and create this community or a sense of community at the very beginning. And so the first year, what I've done, that was before the AI, it would be much easier today to do my dissertation, but that was before the days of the AI. I would read almost any piece of paper that I could find that is related to Almany journals, to local community journals, and I would then try to locate stories of grad from Liberty that would go out there to the frontier, create this community, and see if the community still remains, okay? So I've been able to designate almost 200, 199 communities. I needed three things to verify. So first, that there would be a pastor that is from Liberty U. Second, that it will remain all the way till today, this church.
Sure.
And third, the benchmark that I wanted to have, I picked the Facebook page, because I said if somebody is following a Facebook page of his church, he either a part of the congregation or somebody that at least was part of the congregation. So that would be, a fairly nice reference of what is the number or what is the size of the community. And so I've been able to spot 199 of those. That I have check the whole three boxes. It would start from the very small 11 people that follow after the Facebook of that church, but all the way to more than 100,000 in some of the cases of the church that creates like a popcorn. You like throw them and you don't know what will come at the very end of it after 50, 40, 30, 20 years, depend when the grad went out there and saw that. And the most important thing that I really liked, you usually get to see that when you get into the website of the church. Some of them have an history. So they would say it was July 22nd, 1976, when Pastor John Doe decided that he wants to have this beautiful place to our community, and then it's changed, but it's almost the same. He got a basement, we gave him a room, so you see how it's it's hard. I mean, think about it, he's 21 years old, 23 years old, and he needs to go out there and to create this own vision of create this whole community, which for me was fascinating, like to see, how it's rolling eventually. And then it's the creation of the spiritual life and what in extent he's doing to be part of the kind of community organizer, if you want, like how he's being able to pivot for the community. And so I was very excited by that, and eventually I've been able to draw a heat map. So we have those tools today that you can throw coordinators and then you get like a heat map, how it's all, shaping up. And then I saw that the vision of Falwell, 100% was eventually on the length of history was carried out, because he said that people need to go together, they need to stick to each other. So encourage people to go to a place where there's somewhere close enough already agreed. He would give a very strong network, finance if you need, like purchasing together, like furniture or Bibles or whatever, many courses. He would do some tournament, like who's the fastest growing church, whatever. So you saw that there was very intense backing for that grad. So it's not that he just came, learned, finished, and that's it. No, it's like you get yourself a life ticket, right? It's
Sure.
like we got your guidance all the way, and I was very impressed because I don't know anyone else that created that awesome, huge millions of people that eventually were from one man vision, right? Because and changed America. I mean, for instance, if you look at the Supreme Court, which is one of the very most important things that evangelicals put very, I would say, like emphasizing, right? And you see that eventually it worked.
Yeah.
It worked. Look at the Supreme Court for now. And so in 50 years, it's amazing to see as just one person vision creating this awesome movement. And that's something that I really liked.
Well, let's talk about Christian Zionism today, because
Right.
the impact that Falwell and others had in really establishing Israel as a main part of being a conservative evangelical in the United States is not the case today. I think based on studies, still the majority of evangelicals are supportive of Israel, but we can see, particularly with millennials and younger, that there is an erosion happening to that support. So I want to ask you, first of all, to what do you attribute that change as we see that erosion? What are some of the factors or the key factor that you think is contributing to it?
So I would divide the question for a few things that some of them are upon my postdoc.
Okay.
My postdoc that I did in Pittsburgh and Haifa together was about the pro-Palestinian movement and how they created. So that basically allowed me to see the kick in of the dollars from Qatar and the Muslim Brotherhood. So I don't know if all of your listeners know that, but what I'm going to say, backed up with papers, and I would even urge people to go and see that it is not a conspiracy theory. But back in 1991, there was a group of 5 from the Muslim Brotherhood that FBI tapped them, and they came up with this idea that called the Great Jihad, which means that we need to infiltrate into the American system softly and then get the roof collapse on their head. So they have this 100 years program. We're already 30 years or so after that tapping, okay? And what they said that we'll start at universities, then we'll go to city councils, then we'll go to the US Congress, and within 100 years, we will have a Muslim president. That's their program, that's their goal, okay? So how do we know that? Because in 2007, the Holy Land Fund, I urge people to go and write down the Holy Land Fund trial. They'll find everything there, everything they need to know to be educated about that, and combine those 5 gentlemen went into prisons to 165 years. Now, what happened in just the last 15 years? Let's take just one example, but it sets perfectly. So I think you might even heard the name Zoran Mamadani.
Unfortunately,
right?
I have.
That in 2012 formed the SJP, Student Justice for Palestine, okay, cell in New Hampshire, in the university when you go. So that was step number 1. Let's infiltrate into universities. Let's create this, and we'll talk a little bit about that later, about what they're doing, but let's create our first engagement. Second tier, he would go in 2018. By the way, the same year that he got his citizenship, he just got in 2017, he was Ugandan native.
Right.
In 2018, he got his passport, and the same year, he ran and got elected to the City Assembly of New York, okay? And then in 2025, he's now the mayor of the biggest city in the world, the most important one, okay? And I think you're from Michigan, right?
Right.
So next week, you guys have maybe the first ever elected Democrat nominee to the position of senator, which is a Muslim, anti-Israel advocator, and with, I would say, fair percentage to be elected to become the next senator of the great state of Michigan.
Yeah.
So we already have members of Congress that are affiliated with the Muslim Brotherhood. So now we will have a senator. And I don't think we'll need to wait 70 more years to see the president and the program is being finished. Now, how did they do that? And that is eventually will touch your question. They would pump in some money. Now, right after October 7th, what I saw is a dark network that sniffs the money into very small portions and push it under the law that gives only after $250,000 the mandatory to report that. Now, this mandatory is not really mandatory. There's no punishment if you won't do that at all, okay? And usually what would happen is that you would have, for instance, in Pittsburgh, the SJP, the Student Justice for Palestine, was 2 Chinese national. Now, they would go to learn MA and PhD in gender studies or whatever that you can extend your program for 15 years, and you get free untaxed money because that would be considered as a scholarship, right? It's very nice and convenient, and it is under the radar of $250,000. So it's very easy to kick that grant for them so they can, what they do is for instance, in Pittsburgh, they stabbed a Jewish student with a beer, with a beer bottle, and slashed his neck. So this whole thing is being pumped and manipulated through Qatarian money. Now, what I've done is that in December 2023, I've went all the way to the Capitol Hill and try to present to member of Congress this problem of transparency, in the sense that every foreign nation, Israel included, it's okay, can kick in as much as money as they want, and the parents that sends their kids to university do not even know that. At least let them know if they want to send their kid to a place, for instance, Colombia, that is being heavily sponsored by Qatarian money, okay? And have this branch in Doha, whatever. So Congressman James, from Michigan, amazing member of Congress, I would say. He's running now for governor. I really hope that he will get elected. Decided with the other members of Congress to put forward the Deterrent Act, which say, very simply, if you want to kick money into American universities, fine, but we need transparency. We want this money after $50,000 to be registered. Now, 2 times already it passed the House of Representatives. 2 times it stopped at the Senate level. Last time it was because of Chuck Schumer, but now this session, under Thune as well, is not being progressed. Now, I told that story to my friends in CUFI and Dr. Randy Caldwell, which
just
is
for
the
those who don't know
CUFI.
CUFI, this is Christians United
Christian
for Israel,
United
one of
for
the
Israel,
largest
right.
pro-Israel Christian
Very
organizations.
pro-Israel, right. And this year, you cannot believe, that was the first piece of legislation that they asked the people that came to CUFI to talk with their congressman, which is extreme. And it really filled my heart with joy, because I think that the higher education system, but now as you can go all the way to kindergarten, with the influence of foreign money injected into the system, is rotting the soul of youngsters. Now, they do that in a very manipulative way, very sophisticated way. It's called white guilt. They created with the youngsters the feeling of guilt that their grandparents maybe owned a slave, or most of them, were not there. Right. What can they do? And let's say that their grandfather was a slave owner. What he can do now. Oh, what you can do now. First off, you are to be blamed because you were born white. Now, you want to get yourself out of jail ticket like in Monopoly? Okay. Let get all of your rage, all of your anger against the only one colonialized state in the world today, which is Israel. And this is how they channel and funnel all the rage of youngsters. And so, even if you're a youngster in Michigan, okay, and you go to university 1,000 miles from home, to Colombia, right? And he used to go to service every Sunday, and you like your way of life, and everything is cool and everything is nice. And then you go to Columbia or Harvard or whatever, okay? And right there at the orientation, you're being targeted to this cool vibe with the kafia and the injustice and social justice and everything related to that. And so this injection eventually shaped the narrative of yourself. So you put aside everything your parents taught you, everything the church taught you, and you're now being indoctrinated into Israel hateness. And so that's why I believe that the legislator of the United States need to take a firm action, because Israel is just always just a lily in the mind. Right after Israel, you get to see everything else collapse at the same very time. And so I'm telling to my friends, you know, you have to do it for yourself. This is not our story, it's your story. Where do you want to take America? Because think about it. Could you ever believed, yes, that the mayor of New York, just now honoring 25 years from September 11, took some photos with Imam, his friend, that says that there was nothing there. It's like, it's unbelievable. It's like unbelievable how they look upon things, and that's very saddening. I would put most of it on educational and mainly on, you know, podcasters, etc., which is in the right hand. We do have a very big problem. If you want, we can talk about it later or now. But this is also something that impact very much the life of youngsters.
Well, let's go there for just a second, because we have a lot of podcasters on the right. I wouldn't say they're conservative by any stretch, but they're right wing. Tucker Carlson, Candace Owens, other Nick Fuentes,
Bannon.
Yes. So these voices that even in the case of Carlson, used to be pretty favorable toward Israel. And then post October 7th, there's this switch to the point that now you can't assume that a young person who may have right of center, if not conservative views, you can't assume that they're pro-Israel. In fact, they're not even ambivalent about Israel. Most of the time, young adults today on that political spectrum on the right, they have negative views about Israel and the Jewish people. So is that also foreign influence in terms of the podcast sphere, or is there something else going on?
Yeah. First off, yes, you could go to Justice Ministry and find out, because the FERA, they register. For instance, when he interviewed the Thani from Qatar, he needed to register, and he got paid for that. So basically, the money injected into those big-time podcaster, inciting a flame on Twitter, because there's a lot of people from Pakistan and others that follow him and then would give him rating, and this rating would make money. And it's so funny that just a week or so ago, Puentes said like something of that, oh my God, I will start like Jews because you all decided that hating Jews gets you some more click. I mean, or something of that narrative. I don't even remember what it was. But as funny as it is, he was right, because people now, all of a sudden, you want to get yourself a click, let's go and get against someone. Now, I just recently, yesterday, finished writing an article for a journal that is trying to understand, I call it the vanished pyramid. So I try to link between youngsters that do not have any more junior jobs, or you get to see a shave of the high-tech companies who throw away like hundreds of people in the mid-level career, okay? And then I would then put in New York, Chevalier, she won the New York 13, and went on the data. And I saw that as much as educated and younger you are, the odds that you would vote for those rhetoric of communism. She's, by the way, much more left than Zoran Mamadani. She's confiscating everything, redistribution of everything. She's like serious wacko. Wow. Like serious, like old-time wacko. I think the American public don't know her yet because she was not, elected. Right. She's 20-something years old, but we'll get some of her pearls down the future. And then I went to Florida and Fishbein, which is running now for governor. And I saw that the same rhetoric, by the way, because in that side, the youngsters that support him say that we don't want any more H-1 visa because you get our jobs with, I don't know, for instance, from India. You get H-1 visa is like more upscale. Right. So you're taking our job. And I see that on the left-hand side when she comes and says, like, we need to confiscate everything and redistribute. And then on the right side, we need to ban the opportunity because those conglomerates want to make some money on our back and we don't have a future and we live with our parents in the basement, etc., etc. So you can see that there is a serious fear in which I would say is right because of the AI and people that are educated, okay, and they know what is next. And then they look at their future and they see their parents live in a nice house in the suburbans that now they would not even be able in 40 years of labor to buy themselves such a nice house. Yeah. And their rage. Yeah. And so this rage needs to be funneled somewhere. And this funnel is to go to the very extreme left, the very extreme right. And the horseshoe theory would say it's not that they're on one horizontal line, they're actually, it's look like a horseshoe. And at the very end, they're the most closest. And what glues them together is the hatred for Jews.
Exactly.
Because it's either that you're from Rothschild family conglomerate, that you take all of our money and get people from India, or that you're Israel,
colonial,
and killing the Palestinian, poor Palestinian, and get your revenue from there. And so either way you go, that's what eventually that comes up. So basically, I get to see the atmosphere of the current economic, and as sad as it is, that's the reality for now.
Well, you just returned recently from the annual Christians United for Israel conference, and it's probably one of the largest gatherings of evangelical Christian Zionists in America. Tell us your take on that. What was good? What maybe are some concerns that you saw when you were there, you had when you were there, and give us your assessment.
So I would say the most, and I'm very sensitive. What I'm going to tell you, not even one single Israeli have this ear that I have, because nobody knows anything about that. But I saw that it is across the whole meeting that people sticked into this phenomena that we're not here to convert Jewish people. We're here because there's one big root, and there's and there's a branch of the root, and anyone put it in his different way. And I think that the whole conference was all about, this is pure love. This is nothing related to the end of times, the Armageddon, or whatever that it is. And I think in that respect, that is very refreshing, to see that, in Israel, there's a huge problem of branding. Prior to October 7th, okay, I adopted Christian Zionist. I did not talk about evangelicals, because Israeli know nothing, literally nothing about evangelicals. But if they know something about evangelicals, is that they want to have all the Jews into Israel, Armageddon, and then the end of the world.
Sure.
That's if some Israeli know anything about evangelicals, that usually, but he will say that he knows. Okay, or the one that I like the most is the one that I'm coming to give a lecture, and then they would say, in a low voice, do you know what they really want to do with us? And that's okay. Now you're going to sit down and you're going to hear a whole lecture about. So it's like, hey, I'm a PhD student, or now a PhD. It's like, do you really want to come and tell me the story?
Right.
So in many ways, I think that I wouldn't say a household, but I'm very popular because I'm talking a lot in the Israeli media. So I'm well known, and a very serious portion of my analyzing of the current Trump administration is about evangelicals, or the way I brand it in Israel as Christian Zionist. And I think that there is a serious shift in the way Israel is talking now about Christian Zionists than they talked the past. Why? Mainly because October 7th, we saw that Israel stood alone. The only one who rushed to our help was evangelical or Christian Zionists. And I think that, at the very end, when you look at that, is that people start to understand that most of the people that come with good faith. Okay, so they don't seek to do any other or change beliefs or whatever. And this is funny, but a short story about I think a year ago, the Ministry of Foreign Affairs organized the 5 Christian universities from the West. Okay, so it was by the LA consul that created that trip for them, and they came to visit us, and it was in June. And one of the spots that they stopped just before they went is to HIT, because they know in the ministry that I'm there, and so they have them went to go to Weizmann Institute, Tel Aviv University, Hebrew University, etc., etc. And we were the last stop before they went back. And they asked me to open the session. Obviously, we're tech. Everybody here knows physics and mathematics. Nothing related to history or political science. So the president of this of our school asked me to do the whole leading of the ceremony, etc. And I was keep saying all the time, Christian Zionist, Christian Zionist, Christian Zionist, Christian Zionist. And then at the very end, just before they left, I had a professor of a very distinguished university, one of the largest in the country. And he came to me, took me to the side and told me, Kobby, you keep telling all the time Christian Zionists, I'm not quite sure that this is my affiliation, It's like you stick it to me, and I don't want to say his name. So I said, you know what, Professor, let me tell you, 2 takes about it, okay? So first take, if you may, we're here in Israel, and in Israel, I see myself as an educator, and I started this rebranding, and I have to tell you something. I see a very enormous shift of people that now look completely different, because the brand evangelical was very hard to work with. So instead of working on evangelical, I decided to rebrand it, call it Christian Zionist, and it makes wonders in many ways. Even ultra-Orthodox now have much more opening and understanding about this importance. So this is one. So you're here in Israel, so first of all, I'm sorry. I wasn't meant to offend anyone, but I want to give you my take. Now, if that's okay with you, let me ask you just 2 questions. If that's okay with you, so yes, of course. So I told him, so can you tell me, could you consider yourself as Christians? Of course I am. So I can ask you what kind of, like I'm Baptist. Oh, okay. So could you define yourself as born again? Of course I'm born again. So, okay. Now let me ask you something else, okay? You were here when the Houthis started to shoot the missiles. Would you? But you picked that you wanted to stay here. You did not leave, right? So, of course, it was very important to me. Standing with it. Okay. Now, later on, there was this the Iranian. So they came and there was shooting just like 200 meters from them in a bus when they were in Jerusalem. And then he decided that you're not leaving. I was like, yes, it's solidarity. We love it. I said, okay. So with all of your identities, you decided that you want to stick to Israel. Would you consider thinking yourself as a Christian Zionist as well? And then he told me this beautiful thing. He's like, you know what? I need to be 78 to come to Israel to understand that I'm a Christian Zionist.
Wow.
So it's like, I think it's this like really nice story,
Yeah.
In many sense.
Yeah.
That I understand why he rejected that at the beginning. I got a lot of people that are like, I don't like this labeling. It's like, don't label that on me.
Right.
So I keep telling them why I do that, because it's important to me in Israel. But I think when they look deep into it and they identify Israel as a very important part of their life, then that name is kind of normal into the situation,
title.
right?
Yeah.
So that's a little story about that.
Oh, I love that. I want to close with this. We're certainly Christian Zionists are not on the ascendancy in the U.S. right now, but how do you assess the future? Do you think there's hope of a revival of sorts among Christian Zionists? Do you think the future is bleak? What is your assessment for American Christian Zionists?
I will tell you as follow, and I'm working very hard on that. We're working on a program. We're waiting for a new government to form, etc. And I have this thesis that I came up with a friend of mine, which is a clinic psychologist that his main field is youngsters. And another a friend with us is someone that she's a professor to Gen Z and Alpha. And we came up with this idea or this program. We believe that there is a difference, a serious difference between the Alphas to the Gen Z. Whereas the Gen Z is born into social media, and it was very easy to shovel into their trough the whole stories about social justice, etc. Their younger brother and sister, called the Alpha, one who born after 2012, are in a complete sphere. They are in a sphere of gaming, networking, and they're actually looking for kind of underdogs. And so we are planning to create this new brand called Zionics, and equivalent to the Matrix. And that's where you get the real truth. And we want to brand it on social games and social network. And this is something that the three of us believe that might have a fresh start, because the younger generation espouse their older brothers and sisters. They think they're morons, broadly speaking, yes, in many ways. And I think that this sentiment is something that there's something that we can start working on. HIT, we have a fabulous gaming professors who teach how to create this gaming, and we believe that with the right, presenting this idea of the matrix. Okay, this is something that we want to look at. That this is the matrix. You want to protect Zion. You want to see the truth. You want to be part of the truth. That's important to you, and you're the frontier. And you can leave when you have this bullshit into your head glue, but you can get your real life, and the real life is different. So we believe that there is a future. We hope there is a future. And we try to be active about this future. So you can ask me in a year or so, where are we at on that program? And I never give up. I mean, there's this old folk story about two frogs falling into a jar of milk. One decided drown, and the other put her hands and legs all night, it become butter, and then she jumped out and survived. So even if everything looks very bad at the very moment, I'm not willing to drown. I'm there to try to do my best and give my fair share about trying to change this reality.
Well, Dr. Barda, thank you for what you do. Thank you for your work on this. It's fascinating being a Christian Zionist and a very proud Christian Zionist to have a friend who can tell me what they're seeing from the kind of the outside, even though you're part of the mix as well. And so I appreciate your time and the work you're doing. Ladies and gentlemen, I've been talking to Dr. Kobby Barda, author of The Liberty Way, Falwell's Path to Christian Zionism. I recommend you get a copy of that and look further into the development of Christian Zionism in the United States. But until we talk again next time, Dr. Barda, I wish you well.
Thank you so much.
You've been listening to Gesher, a ministry outreach production of FOI Equip, your free resource for learning and engaging with the scriptures from a Jewish perspective. To learn more, visit foiequip.org. And for more information about Ty, visit foi.org/Perry. Until next time, may the Lord bless you and keep you. Shalom.